The Diluvian has 50 waves, full of hundreds of deadly monsters that can easily wipe any normal PvE build. It normally takes a team of 2 to 5 people to clear it, but this build solos it. It's so tanky that you could use an Ishin's ring to clear the Diluvian even faster. One-shots almost anything with a single mantra. This is the most powerful mage build in all of the Diluvian. The Ground Zero 2.2. To be clear, this is a modified version of the Knowledgeable Sardines Ground Zero build. However, this version is a little bit tankier, gaining about 10 more HP, and in terms of damage buffs, you're consistently gaining anywhere from 15 to 50% more damage, as well as 10% more mantra pen. But still make sure to check out his channel if you want to see how he solos the Diluvian using this build. And if you have any further questions after the showcase, you should watch the progression that I made on the build. Anyways, today I will be showing you the stat order for the build, progression tips, and finally how to use this build in the Diluvian to its fullest potential. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe, because I actually have a second Diluvian mage that I plan to release, and that build will also be incredibly powerful. So make sure you join the Discord if you want the build. Also, one last thing, if you want to join my PvE guild to have people to grind with and discuss PvE with, I have recently made the requirements significantly easier to apply for, so make sure to check that out in my Discord. Anyways, let's get into the build. Alright, so the race on this build can be literally any race in the game. You just follow the same order of stats. But the best is obviously Vesperian. Depending on your race, you might not be able to get the agility at the end of the build, but that's only going to have a very minimal effect on you. For your Oath, we obviously go Dawnwalker at the end of the build, just for the insane damage it provides. Your origin for this build, it has to be either Voidwalker, Castaway, or Lone Warrior. You specifically do not want to go Deep Bound on this build, for something that I'll discuss later. Your outfit is either Ignition Deep Delver for defense, or Prophet's Cloak for offense. For your bell, we obviously want a Corrupted Hayback, the healing is just too good. For your boons and flaws, as long as you take Steadfast, it doesn't matter what you take apart from that. And off Shrine of Order, the best flaw in the game is Glutton. So on the starting screen, you can start off with 10 Flamecharm, then you just invest everything that you can into your Charisma stats, even if you have to sit at a campfire in game. So for the stat order, you want to start by going to 25 Charisma, then 20 Willpower, then you jump to 50 Fortitude for all the good Fortitude cards, then to 50 Willpower, 55 Charisma, this is for Chaotic Charm, then you get to 80 Willpower, 90 Fortitude, and then finally you get your Brick Wall requirements, getting 100 Willpower, then 100 Fortitude. Here you just put 1 point into Strength and Intelligence. Okay, but before you Shrine of Order, you can power up. What you want to do is just invest 3 points into any stat you have. For example, I'm just going to get us to 4 intelligence to let us power up. Depending on your race, you might reach power 17 sooner. So now you can Shrine of Order. Obviously you want to get Glutton off it if you can. So now you've already got 30 strength for Berserk and 30 intelligence for the cracked intelligence talents. Now you just jump to 80 Flamecharm, then go to 80 Fortitude, this is for a level 5 reinforced, and then you just put 5 points into agility. If your race doesn't allow you to get 5 points into agility, it doesn't matter, that's just for time to go. But you'll more than likely be able to get it. For your traits, you just want 6 Song Chant and 6 Vitality. Maximum damage, maximum health. And that's it for the stat order. Now let's go over to the talents, because there's quite a few that you can get on this build. Okay, so you'll start by getting your Reinforced Armor pre-shrine. This is a pen reduction, which is very good for defense. But the main thing you get is Brick Wall. This essentially means that you can't be ragdolled out of using your mantras. It's very good. Then you'll also want to get Will-O-Wisp, just because you are going to be using Flame Wisp on this build. Perfect Flash, at the start of rounds in the Diluvian, you'll deal significantly more damage. Carnivore is a must, as well as Defiance. Then you'll get Eureka. This essentially rewards you for spamming mantras by making them cost less ether. Fishman for the HP, as well as Exoskeleton to the finish for even more defense. Neuro is another mantra slot. Then you want to get your Insanity stuff, like Lose Your Mind and Piercing Will. Thresher Claws for more pen. Then you get Scuba Drowner and Blood Iron Spirit for defense, as well as Undying Flame. This is a very important card along with Graceful Flames. I'll explain more a little bit later. Get your Time to Go, getting a speed boost is always nice. Then you get Giant Slayer, Underdog, Tough Love, Chaotic Charm, and Lasting Charisma. All of these cards make a massive difference to the amount of damage you take and deal. Give and take, that's really good if you have teammates, since you'll be dealing less damage to them with stuff like Blinding Dawn. Then you want to get Mantra Permanence, Magical Resolve, and Ether Conduit. Ether Conduit procs whenever either of these talents proc a bunch, which, well, getting more damage when you either knock an enemy or get hit is gonna happen very often, so you're basically always at 10% more mantra damage. Get Cauterized Wounds for less blood loss, then you'll get your Flamecharm Unbound for free, as well as Your Flames. Get Immolation, that's just free. Then you're going to be going the Eruption path with Empowered Eruption and Flashpoint. You don't need to get Molten Defense. Get your Last Resort, 11th Hour, and Uproar, as well as Old Habits Die Hard and Breathing Exercises. Then you get Armor Conserver, Berserker, which is damage resistance when you knock a target. Full Reset, really good with Corrupt Counter. Then just Replenishing Knockout. Normally you take Ready or Not, however you are actually in danger in the Diluvian, and you get attacked so frequently that this makes such a minimal difference that it's not even worth taking. Auto Scrim is the big one. Because of something we'll talk about in a second, this is a free thing to have on a mage build that only Flamecharm can use, netting you 25% more damage and more posture damage. Then you'll get your Steel and Padded Scales, and then you'll get one of the best talents in the game, period. Hungry Flames. When you have no ether, it'll use your hunger and thirst bar to cast the mantra. Now, because you have Carnivore on this build, it's incredibly cracked for reasons that I'll discuss a little bit later on, since I want to talk about talents right now. Pocket Bombs is 5 more HP, then you'll get Turtle Shell and Knight's Rally. Snake Oil is just a nice quality of life talent. Unfazed and Grasp on Reality are required. And then for your last talent, it doesn't really matter what you get, although in my opinion, Flaming Flourish is more worth it since it can cause a little more eruptions. Then we're just going to come down here and add the Oath, as well as all the quest talents you can get. Now, it's important that you get Heretic Sutra pre-shrine on this build. You just need to get tier 1 Insanity at some point in your life, and you can get it. And this is all 60 talents of this build, giving you a massive spread of damage resistance, damage output, and just HP in general. Now your mantras are the big one. Burning Servants, it's a quick cast and free damage. Relentless Flames is the bread and butter of this build, dealing absolutely massive close range damage. Fireforge is good for single target, kind of a more long range version of Relentless Flames. Then you'll grab Flame Sentinel. This is a free turret that you can just launch out and will attack mobs for you. Now for your Dawnwalker stuff, you just take Blinding and Radiant Dawn. Radiant Dawn is a very easy posture break for enemies, and Blinding Dawn is good AoE damage. Then finally you want to get Fire Eruption. This is just absolutely cracked for humanoids, basically meaning mage builds have no downsides. Although I will talk about the no mantra rounds after. For your mobility mantra, you don't really need to take anything. If you want something, then you can use Beast Burrow. This can allow you to ignore winds in layer 2, and is just a way to negate fall damage. For your support mantra, you're obviously going to get Graceful Flame. This is incredibly good because it allows you to regen sanity in the depths. Because you're a Voidwalker, you'll be able to retain insanity unlike deep ban players, meaning Lose Your Mind is always procced. However, you will still gain insanity in the depths, but having Undying Flame and Graceful Flame allows you to negate this. Reinforce is just extra damage reduction and extra damage. Then finally Flameless, this is just extra healing whenever eruptions go off. We do have more support mantras than we can have equipped at one point in time, but you can just swap out Reinforce for Graceful Flame between rounds. Finally, let's go to the weapon. So for this build, there is 2 options. You can either get a Battle Axe with the Providence Thorns enchant, if you're quite good at parrying, or Seer. Since you can M1 an enemy, and then your mantras will deal more pen against it. The other option if you want good M1 damage is a Hero Blade of Flame. The crit is okay and the M1 damage isn't awful, so it's a pretty good option if you don't want to rely on the Battle Axe's parrying. And then for the rings on this build, you use a Ring of Casters. Only if you're good at the Diluvian will you use an Ishin's Ring, as well as a Diver's Ring and a Deep Fire Ring. Deep Fire Ring means your eruptions happen a lot quicker, which is very useful for DPS. Coming over to the summary of this build, we get a massive 170 HP, which is completely insane, as well as 38 elemental intensity. So yeah, this build is absolutely cracked. Now let me explain what actually makes this build work so well, because there is a ton of really broken talent and mantra synergies. So the biggest talent synergy in this build that I briefly discussed in the talent section is Hungry Flames and Auto Scream. These two are the most broken combo in the game. Auto Scream allows you to get 25% more damage to any target affected by it, which is massive for your mantras. The one downside, which is huge for a mage normally, is you get no ether after you use it. But Hungry Flames allows you to cast all your flame mantras for free. And because of Carnivore, your hunger will be replenished faster than your mantras drain it. This basically means only on Flamecharm, Auto Scream is 25% more damage. Not to mention the posture buffs Auto Scream gives as well can allow you to deal with humanoids even easier. The other thing Hungry Flames allows you to do is have infinite modifiers on your mantras, since the ether cost doesn't matter. For example, these are mine. I kinda just looked at the spell modification sheet and put as much stuff as I could on it. That's just how good Hungry Flames and Flamecharm is. Alright, now let's discuss the gems I put on the mantras. I'm actually using 3 different mantras with blessed gems on this build. Blinding Dawn and Relentless Flames are the main 2. These are your opening mantras and deal the most damage on this build. Due to their long duration as well, this means that Blessed Gem can proc later on while the hitbox is still out, to essentially bypass the cooldown that Blessed Gem has. For Blinding Dawn, you want to be using this at the start of all the rounds, just to weaken or even kill the lower mobs. Or you can just use this thing if you want to keep your distance from whatever you're fighting. Relentless Flames is a much more aggressive close range option. You want to use this when it's safe to do so, because if you time it right, you can pretty much kill the wave in one mantra. Relentless Flames is easily the singular strongest mantra in the game in terms of damage. The final mantra that you have a Blessed Gem on is Radiant Dawn. The reason for this is you use the mantra to approach a group of mobs, and don't use it in the middle of a combo like Relentless Flames or Blinding Dawn. The main use of Radiant Dawn outside of its damage is by posture breaking monsters whenever you can't use Fire Eruption. The next mantra is Fire Forge. With a Tornado Spark on it, it is incredibly good in single target damage. Then you have your Eruption. This deals pretty good damage, but can allow you to shred humanoids as well, since they'll try to block the Eruption only to get posture broken. Flame Sentinel is always free passive damage on this build, since it'll just float around you and shoot whatever you're fighting for free damage. Then you have Flame Wisp. This is just free healing, since whenever your Eruptions damage something, you'll get a little bit of health back. And seeing as how many mobs there is in the Diluvian, you're going to be causing a lot of Eruptions and gaining a lot of HP. Reinforced at level 5 gives you a good chunk of damage resistance and some free extra damage. You want to try to use this before the start of any difficult rounds, because you need to get the Undying Flame talent. As I discussed while making the build, you're specifically going Voidwalker on this build, just because Deepbound has a passive where if you kill anything in the depths, you'll restore your sanity. And this is actually bad because you want to keep Lose Your Mind and Piercing Will procced, so going Voidwalker bypasses this. The one downside is you will need to cast Graceful Flames between some rounds just so you don't go too insane. Generally, a good way to tell of when you're gaining too much sanity is when the little scales appear on the side of your screen. So if you're keeping track at this point, this build can reach over 50% higher damage multipliers than version 2.1 of the Ground Zero build. And to answer two very commonly asked questions, for your equipment on this build, you just want to focus on getting max monster armor and max DVM. And the big one, is this better than my Dragon King builds? If you don't know, these are my Silent Heart builds that are also made to solo the Diluvian, and are also stupidly tanky. The thing is, the Dragon King builds require you to think less than a mage, since you're just M1ing. However, in my opinion, this build is fun, since they're pretty much equally tied in how well they can solo the Diluvian. In the end, what build you should make kinda just depends on what you like playing. Anyways, massive thanks to Knowledgeable Sardine for making this build in the first place. I never would have gotten the inspiration to improve it without him. I hope you all have enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, and join the Discord for the build maker link. Anyways, check out some more PvE content, and I'll see you all next time.